Hello, today I'm going to read Chapter 4, School Teacher. Now let's find out who that school teacher is going to be. Chapter 4, School Teacher. After David recovered, Clara went back to school. When a few years had passed, she began to think again of school teaching herself. Sally, Dorothy, and Stephen are school teachers, she said to David. I think I'd like to teach school too. Are you sure you're big enough? He asked teasingly. I'm 17, she told him. I don't mean your age, Clara, he said, messing up her hair. I mean your size. Do you think those students are going to listen to you? Clara was only 5 feet tall. They listen to me if they respect me, Clara told David. I'll have to find a way to earn their respect. Shortly after that, she earned her first teaching certificate. One bright early morning in May, Clara Barton walked to the one-room schoolhouse near North Oxford. It was her first day as a teacher, and she was nervous. She wore her new green dress with velvet trim. It reached all the way down to her shoes. Her thick, dark hair was parted in the middle with curls falling over her ears, which made her look like an adult. But did she feel like an adult? Did she act like an adult? She wasn't much older than many of her other pupils. She knew. Some of them were going to be bigger than she was. Would they listen to her? What do you think? Sorry, people are doing parties. It's during the coronavirus. I think they're starting to do parties again. Alright, sorry about that, but next page. Her heart pounding with anticipation, Clara opened the door to the schoolhouse and entered. 40 heads. 40? That's a lot. 40 heads turned around to look at her as she stood by the doorway. The children were already at their desks. Bright and rosy-cheeked, aged 4 to 13, they were all in one class, and all pupils of Clara Barton. Good morning, boys and girls, Clara said as she made her way to the front of the room. Good morning, Miss Barton, they answered. Her desk was raised on a platform in the front of the class so the students could see her. Clara Barton sat down and looked at her pupils' faces. Do you each have a Bible? She asked them. Solemnly, they nodded. If you didn't know, solemnly means seriously. Or quietly, like serious and quiet, in between. Please open to the book of Matthew, chapter 5. We will study Jesus' Sermon on the Mount. Who would like to start reading? We'll take turns. That's her. Do you see those 40 people's head? But not maybe all of them. You could see quite a few. That's Clara. You can see her Bible's open. One little girl raised her hand. What's your name? Clara asked, smiling. Emily, the little girl said. All right, Emily, you may begin. Emily began reading earnestly, and the other pupils read silently along. Clara's sharp eyes soon noticed the pupil seated behind Emily. He was a big boy, bigger even than Clara, and though he pretended to read his Bible, he was actually laughing behind his hand and giving funny looks to his 3 other boys who sat in the next row. That isn't paying attention. Clara knew this boy. His name was Pete Boyd. He and his 3 friends were the 4 biggest boys in the class. They were also bullies. She remembered they'd made a lot of trouble for the teacher last year. She would have to deal with them carefully but firmly. During the break, all the children went outside to play. Suddenly, little Emily came running up to Clara. Pete's hurt, Miss Barton, she cried. Please, come right away. Clara hurried over to the schoolyard behind the schoolhouse. In the yard lay Pete Boyd with a big scratch on his cheek. Next to him stood 3 friends. What happened? Clara demanded. One of the other big boys mumbled, then laughed. But when Clara raised herself to full height and demanded, eyes blazing, and demanded again to know what happened, he turned red and said, "We were pitching horseshoes, Miss Barton. I pitched one and it hit Pete's face." Ow, that hurts. Quickly, Clara bent over Pete Boyd. Her 2 years' experience nursing David was already her advantage. She looked knowledgeably at the scratch and said, "You're lucky, Pete. There's only a little blood, but it's dried already. It's nothing that a clean handkerchief and a little water can't fix." Clara gave him her own handkerchief and told him to wash his face and come back. The big boy looked at the young teacher with curiosity, but then did as he was told. When he came back, Clara said to the 4 boys, "From now on, whenever you pitch horseshoes, you must make sure everybody stands far away from the peg. That way, no one will get hurt. Your concentration will be better and your scores will be higher. Here, give me the horseshoes. I will show you." Pete Boyd looked at Clara, his mouth wide open. "You, Miss Barton? You want to pitch horseshoes?" Still astonished, the big boy gave her the horseshoes, but that was nothing compared to the surprise when Clara pitched them. Okay, let's see how she's gonna get pitched. That's Clara at full height. Get the scratch on Pete's face. Pete bent over to examine the horseshoes as they lay neatly around the peg, then looked up, flabbergasted. Flabbergasted is just another word for astonished. "You didn't miss one, Miss Barton," he exclaimed. "You have a perfect score." He'd never met a teacher like this in his entire life. But that was only the beginning. The next day, during recess, Clara played ball with the boys, and very quickly they discovered that she could throw and catch better than any of them. Soon, she was not only teaching them how to spell and do arithmetic is another word for math, but also how to jump, to catch a ball thrown high or wide, and how to throw straight. Even in her long dresses and wide skirts, Clara could run and jump better than any of them. Those boys never made trouble for Clara again. They became her best pupils. They learned to read and write. They also learned history and geography, and Clara had earned their respect, just as she promised David she would do. They're looking, and Pete's looking and examining those pegs, and she got all 3 and got a perfect score. All right, that's the end of this chapter. Now we're on chapter 5, but we're gonna read that next time. Thank you for listening. Hopefully you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.